You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Making Tracks. Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
It's not true. That's impossible.
Hello and welcome to episode 158 of Making Tracks, brought to you by those fine folk over at fanthatracks.com. My name's Mark, and joining me this week, well, it's Mark, Jed, and Martin. We've got a whole plethora of people joining us this week, and it's completely live. So, yeah, sorry about this month for all the swearing.
I'm glad you used my favourite word, plethora. That doesn't get used enough. Yeah, we've got a bit busy episode today. We've got loads of people on and loads of stuff to talk about. Yeah, like you said, this is as live. Let's just pile into it, Mark. Let's introduce everybody. I'm going to start. Martin Keeler, how are you, mate? How are you doing?
I am very well indeed. I'm very, very well indeed. Having survived Bournemouth with you.
Oh, yeah, blimey, yeah. Did you bring anything back with you? Or
just a recording of Paul Naylor and I snoring.
Oh, my God.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those apps are priceless. Thank God I got the single room. And Jed, how's it going?
Do I have to introduce myself, or
if you want to? I mean, I could give you a wonderful intro, but I think you could probably do your own much better than I could.
Well, I'm Jed Shepherd. I'm a filmmaker. You probably know me best for the 2020 Zoom horror movie called Host, and then Dashcam from Blumhouse last year. Yeah, and from the first Cantina. Yeah, we're doing it again.
I love the fact that you mentioned Zoom horror movie, which you are literally doing the sequel right now.
Yeah, who knows how this will turn out? Like, it's going to be worse.
And Mark, Mr. Hamilton, how's it going?
Good to be here.
How's life?
Life is all over the place. Tomorrow I'm going to the Cayman Islands, which will be nice.
Nice.
Then I'm back to New York for one day, and then all the way off to New Zealand to do a tour in New Zealand, Australia, Japan, and then back to London for Cantina. So actually, I'm going to be pretty hectic all the way up. I'll have a nice little spell in Cayman, and then it's going to be pretty full on until Cantina. I
know nothing about the Cayman Islands other than it's a notorious tax haven, but that's probably not a topic of conversation, is it really?
Probably not.
So, Mark, what are we going to talk about? Obviously, we've got Cantina. I say this as we sit on the cusp of season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I've not even had a chance to check your website today. So have you posted anything of any interest?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Great. Well, in that case... let's go around the room anyway. Chaps, are you all looking forward to season 3 of Mandalorian?
Absolutely. I just saw that new teaser they dropped last night. There's a lot of pretty posh looking special effects, especially with the Mando Talon Fighter space battle kind of stuff, which we haven't seen too much of in Mando yet. I think it's going to be on a bigger scale. So it looks all very exciting.
Me and Mike got a little bit of a taste of season 3 by going to the launch event last week. One of the bands that was playing Cantina, Blues Harvest, was the Cantina band. We got some souvenirs and some cocktails. It was great.
She went to that, didn't you, Mark?
Quick question. What cocktail? Yes, I did. I was very lucky to be there. What cocktail did you have, Jed?
So obviously you have to go for the blue milk. Like if you have that as an option, you have to do it. And obviously I wanted to compare and contrast from the blue milk that we had at the first Cantina. I'll tell you what, it wasn't as good as ours, but it was tasty. They had a drink called the Mandalorian. That was a very sour. A drink shouldn't make you shiver, and that made me shiver for some reason. And then there was one called the Green Gogu, which I think is you just call it the Grogu. You don't need to call it the Green Gogu, but that was a bit sour as well. So we'll have to improve on that when it comes to Cantina.
In summary, what Jed's saying is there was no alcohol in them.
That's what it was.
Yeah. I think I've seen some really well done the child margaritas. I think we're going to be doing stuff like that at Cantina.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely a bar at Cantina.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's a big bar. Yes, there's a couple.
That's good to know.
If you remember the first Cantina, this bar is 3 times bigger. It spans almost the entire back of the venue is a bar, which is very handy because we want to everyone to try the cocktails, and we don't want there to be queues because there's loads of stuff to do. So luckily, there's lots of places to get your drinks.
The last cantina broke the record for booze sales at that venue, didn't it?
They sold the most booze, but we have multiple bars this time as well, which is not only this massive long bar at the back, but there's also a bar upstairs as well for those who have those tickets.
Do you remember at the last one, they was before the event, it was like, how much should we pre-make? How much should we make sure there's, and they were being quite conservative. And I think it was about like 2 hours in and we saw the venue owners and they were like, yeah, we're making more. We're making lots more. Right now, we're making lots more.
I just remembered they had to go out and restock on the milk. They just didn't understand.
Only at a Star Wars event would you restock on the milk.
Yeah. They need to get it straight from the source. That's what they need.
Well, you missed the trick.
Straight from the phallus-iron.
I was going to say, you need a couple of phallus-irons so people can go make their own.
You don't even joke. We actually were thinking about having that.
There was a concept drawing, wasn't there, of help yourself phallus-iron.
I'm going to have to send that. I'm going to send that to Mark right now because his eyes will not believe it.
Was it a picture of Martin drinking out of?
Oh no, I think it was you and I think.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. Mark didn't put himself in a.
No, I didn't want to.
So, Martin, you looking forward to season 3?
Yeah, well, I've seen it all already because I get sent all this stuff. No, I'm really looking forward to it. At the moment, I'm probably a little bit focused on organising things, so getting to actually watch stuff is proving to be a challenge. But I will definitely be watching The Mandalorian as it comes out. I'm kind of going in spoiler-free to an extent because I haven't had time to read anything. So I'm looking forward to that. But I know they've got Quacky and Monkey Lizards in there, so that makes it a must-watch. And it's got Babu Frick's species in there as well. So I'm happy, man. Just as long as it's got some Kyozus in there as well.
Oh, let's hope. That's more than 3 frames.
5. Aim for 5 this time.
Yeah. Double or nothing. Mark, you've got lots going on as well, obviously, with what's going on with the Rebel Legion and everything at Celebration. I know you're busy because we barely get time to record Making Tracks these days. So how's it all going for you at the moment?
Well, we're building a bar as well, but our bar is for the Excel Centre. It won't be serving alcoholic drinks, but it didn't stop us from ordering 5,000 beer mats.
Yay!
So we ordered 5,000 themed beer mats for the name of the cantina.
So you're going to have the cantina bar, and we've just got big bars.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, ours isn't like the canteen. It's not like Mos Eisley. It's just kind of like we've kind of styled it so it's going to be like a scavenger bar. So it's although it's kind of Tatooine, actually you could probably say it's probably more akin to Jakku. We've called it the Wampus Arm. So
that's great. That's brilliant.
So,
the Wampus Arm's brilliant.
So that's that, and we're doing other stuff as well. You know, we're building like a Endor kind of like tactical field station for our little homage to ROTJ. You know, so it's just busy. All go. And
it is definitely all go. And we've got 6 weeks to go, haven't we?
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, 6 weeks is all over, I think, isn't it all?
I can't wait. I keep
for it to all be over.
I can't wait till the 12th of April.
In 6 weeks' time, we'll all be nursing really strong or like really bad hangovers. It's like the Monday.
5 o'clock or whenever it shuts on the Monday, the whole of London will just hear XL sigh and go
Top buttons undone.
Hi, this is Guy Henry, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks. Enjoy.
Cantina. The first one was legendary back in 2016. People have talked about it ever since. And when you announced you were doing another one, I think you announced it just before Christmas, if I remember. So the back end of last year. Yep. It's part of Celebration. Celebration's coming back to the UK. We might not have it here again this decade, so it's a big deal. So how was the whole? I know you've been on. I think the first show you did, if I remember, was probably Desert Planet Discs.
It was.
And so it's kind of nice that you're coming back onto Fantha Tracks nearer the event. There's still a ways to go and other things to announce, which we'll get to in a bit. But how has the planning and how has the plotting been this time compared to the first time? Did you feel like you learned a lot from what you did before, or is it always reinventing the wheel?
Oh, well, I'm going to jump straight in here because one of the things that's really funny is I think to talk for Jed, and he'll tell me if I'm wrong, this feels exactly the same as last time. It's like full on. Mark, of course, has joined the party as an organizer this time, and I think he's now experiencing the fun of every message is should we do this? Or, let's get that in place. And it's like having a second job, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, it's definitely like it's actually, you and I understand why people promote shows as a full-time job.
Yeah.
A newfound respect. You're going to be looking around going, I feel for you. But no, it's good. But it's still got that fun element. So that's the other thing. Although it's a lot of work, it's good work. So it's very exciting. And the trick is to make sure you balance the life in the right way so that you keep your life in the right place, but you're dedicating the right amount of time to getting this show to be the best it can be.
There's been a few OMFG moments as well. There was like one last week, which were just like fist clenching and like punch in the air. And then another one this morning, actually.
Yeah. So we've had a few great moments where we're constantly chatting and we're constantly on Zoom or WhatsApp and the Discord. It's everywhere. Every now and again, when something lands, we do this thing of saying, let's just take 30 seconds to go, yes. That's
the Muppet flail.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's sort of straight on to, right, what's next on the list?
I kind of said to Mark last week, actually, that when you're planning anything for celebration, it's a bit like a wedding. You wake up about 4 months out and you go, holy we've got so much to do. And then as things kind of like fall into place, as they get closer, you start to relax a little bit and just kind of chill out. And I'm sure it's probably the same for you guys.
The only time we'll get to kind of chill is afterwards. And like I was saying to these guys earlier, the first one, like I couldn't even have a drink until I knew it was all right. So the first drink I had was at about 10 p.m. Because I was just like, okay, I need to have my mind clear. If Ash don't come on stage for some reason, then like I'll feel like I'll need to find a way to fix this. Go up with a ukulele or something. But this time, I think I'm going to try and enjoy it. You know, I'm gonna have at least one drink, just one little drink. This is a great team. We've known each other for a long time, so everyone trusts each other. Even though up until the very, very last minute, we're gonna be thinking of cool stuff to do, because that's just how we are. It's exciting, and it's obviously quite draining, because putting on any gig's draining, but putting on one with the expectation of like the Star Wars fans is even more like pressure. But you know, we've done it before. We've built the foundation, so yeah, this is the fun stuff. It's fun.
Yeah. And are you conscious of how well regarded that first one was? Because it's a few years ago now, but it always gets talked about. Do you kind of have to put that to the back of your mind and just focus on the present? Or do you sometimes go, that was pretty damn cool?
Just from my point of view, I think of the 2016 one as a 9 out of 10. This is going to be a 10 out of 10, because, you know, we could have probably done, even though it was perfect, there is still some stuff where I'm thinking, oh, we could have, like, for instance, this time we're theming everything. We didn't have theming last time. This time we've got theming. So you're not only going to be at Cantina, you're going to be in a Cantina as well. Yeah, that we've just dialed it up.
I was always reticent to go back and do it again, because it felt like you're just in danger of getting it wrong this time. It went so well the first time. But then the offer that came in to sort of do it, and as Jed and Mark sort of said, let's do something, build on what we did before. So it's not like start from scratch. We know about all the stuff before, but let's do it with all the bits that we wish we'd done. And its theming has been the whole thing through it. So I don't want expectations. People we're redoing the O2 to look like a cantina in its entirety, but there is absolutely theming that will make perfect sense on the night in a concert that you don't normally get to see that sort of stuff in. But, primarily it's a big old party and a big old concert, but it's definitely a next level what's on the table. And Blues Harvest, they're at a next level to where they were at 2016.
Oh, yeah.
When we first met Blues Harvest, the legendary story that Andy always tells, he just happened to post on a board saying, does anyone know of any gigs we could play at the very time where we just decided we were doing #Cantina. So it was like, yeah, okay. And that's where I met Andy. Well, now, of course, I've been lucky enough to do some stuff with them outside of it, but, they're going to walk in there and own that stage.
Yeah.
Whereas previously they were kind of like, oh, I wonder what this is going to be like. They're fresh off of launching the Mandalorian, the Forge sort of thing.
Yeah.
If Pedro Pascal is happy enough to do air guitar to your band, then you're going to be safe amongst Star Wars fans. so everything. So, but that to me makes it easier, because last time there was an element of and I think Nick Brockley said it. He didn't know what the venue was like, and he was like wondering whether the sound would be good or whether it was professional. And as soon as he walked in, he was like, "Oh my god, this is really good." Well, we were kind of the same in. I hope this band are good. Yeah. We've heard their demos and we've heard their trials, but we haven't actually sort of seen them do their stuff in a Star Wars environment. Well, of course, we don't have that pressure now because we just know they knock it out of the park.
Yeah, and we've also got Darth Elvis's final show.
Absolutely, Darth Elvis's final public show.
I'm kind of heartbroken about that. I mean, I get it. The original Elvis had to disappear to a desert island somewhere at some point, working the chip shop on Fridays and all that stuff. But our Darth Elvis not being out at gigs It's kind of sad.
At times.
But what a way to go. It's like, we're not going to let him just perform and go. He's got to have a finish to his story.
So when you have all these crazy, madcap, wacky ideas, how do you know when to hold and when to fold? How do you know this is the one to go for and this is the one not to? What's the flip of the coin that makes these things happen or not?
We're still trying to do everything. I mean, if they don't happen, it'll be because we've got up to the last day and it's just not maybe logistically possible.
Yeah, the great thing is, like, the stage this time is a lot bigger, which means we can do more stuff, and the venue's like much bigger too. So more room for a bar, which was good, but more room to have the extras that we're doing this time, like signings, for instance. When have you ever seen proper signings at a gig before? Never. And we've got exclusives. We've got people who aren't going to be at Celebration. We've got exclusives. So if you've come to Celebration to like meet one of your heroes from the original trilogy, prequels, the sequels, you're in for a bloody treat, because we've only announced a handful of them and we've got loads more to come. And genuinely, some of the names that we've got are going to blow your mind.
Okay, well, without spoiling too much, explain to us, some of the listeners may not have seen who's already been announced. I mean, you should if you would read Fantha Tracks, but if you don't, then you won't. Give us a taste of who's been announced so far.
So first up, it wouldn't be a cantina if you didn't have Greedo himself. Woo! Paul Blake is going to be in the cantina, available for autographs and selfies and a photo op, which we're locking in.
Ooh.
And what's the photo op going to consist of?
We want it to be having shots with Greedo, so you can work out who's had the shot first.
I like this idea. Okay.
You're only ever going to be able to get that at a cantina. Okay, so that was a no-brainer and a great way to start. Then we've got Paul Casey, who's a great preacher, performer. As you know, he's like top of the tree in what he does. Radus himself, but a number of other characters. Again, you can see where we're going with this. It tends to have a creature angle to it, but there's other things coming that might screw it up. And then we've focused on the VIP experience. So we'd already put out that for the VIP tickets,
hosted by Fantha Tracks.
Hosted by Fantha Tracks, we're going to have the big after show party. So I hope you guys are working hard on that party, because we've just left you to do it. Okay.
Bunting, ice cream cakes, the whole thing. Yeah.
Was it? You're buying everyone a drink, Mark? Incredible. Well done.
First person through the door. Yeah.
So you get the after show party where we're going to retire to, assuming that we're ready for that. So you'll see people up there. Atomic Blonde's going to be DJing there, which will be exclusive because she does the stage hosting at Cantina. So she's going to come and just play there. So she won't be on the main stage that night. She'll just be at the VIP party. You get a lanyard, a VIP lanyard. You get a VIP exclusive hashtag Cantina badge, and you get a private entrance to your area of the balcony, which is really smart, isn't it, Jed? We went there the other day.
It's lush. It's very bougie, I'll say that. You'll like, because in the queue, you get the usual. You're gonna get the stormtroopers, like hassling the crowd. You can just wait. You can just wave past those stormtroopers straight into through the side door and have a luxury filled experience.
Yeah. Which leads us into the things we've announced this weekend, which is there's going to be exclusive signers in the VIP lounge. And of course, you're not going to have the Imperials mixing with the scum down at the canteen.
Villainy.
So we've actually got Julian Glover, and we've announced tonight that we've also got Ken Colley.
Cool.
All joking apart, two beloved actors that aren't at Celebration. And I think a lot of people at Celebration will appreciate the opportunity to see these guys.
General Veers and Admiral Piet, kingpins of the Empire.
I love it. This is such a cool concept. I mean, as if there wasn't enough going on. Talk about value for money.
And that's the thing we're really pushing, because it's £36 for a standard ticket. It's a lot of money in some respects, but it's not a lot of Celebration money. I think it's fair to say.
Nothing, yeah.
And the signings, we're working with Alliance agents who have been absolutely amazing. They're completely into this in the same way we are. Frankly, their clients just want to be mixing with Star Wars fans. So the autograph prices are your standard autograph prices.
Yes.
Which is not a reflection on Celebration, because they've got a different thing to do there. For example, Ken Colley, who was announced tonight, he's going to be £30 for an autograph and selfies at £20.
And I guess one of the ways we can do that is there isn't a big organisation running this, it's us running it. So we can keep those prices low. And again, you're not going to see these people signing during Celebration weekend. So this is real exclusive.
And it is one of our key rules. The people who are signing there are only signing there because they want to be with the fans. We're not doing anything about people saying, is there a money-making opportunity? Because we're saying, we're primarily a concert. It's going to be a money-making opportunity to a certain extent, but fundamentally it's going to be a fun night. And we know one of the things people loved at the first Cantina was when you bumped into one of the actors and took a selfie with Ash playing in the background. Well, you can now do that in a kind of more organised way. That's really how we're pitching it.
And how far back was this a concept of having guests there? Was it a recent idea? Because I know you're spitballing all the time. So was it something that came up in the conversation a week ago? Was it a concept that you thought of months ago? Where were you with that?
Well, we always wanted to invite guests to the event, mainly to just say, do you want to come along and have a good night out?
Yeah.
And as you know, Alliance Agents are very fan friendly. And I casually reached out and sort of said, is there anyone who wants to come for a good night out? And they were the ones who came back to us and said, well, yeah, they do. But actually, we got this large roster of Star Wars actors.
Yeah.
Have you thought about doing signings? And of course, we said, well, that seems like quite a lot of work. And they said, well, we handle that bit. And it just sort of grew from there. So we always knew we wanted these people here, but it was a no-brainer when it was put on the table of why don't they do signings?
That's the thing. We'll take good ideas wherever they come from. Like, even if like someone who's bought a ticket, if someone says, "I'd love to see this there," and it matches kind of what we want to do, or is better than what we want to do, we'll take everything. And of course, like, because this hasn't been done before in terms of a concert with signings going on at the same time, we've had to think long and hard about the logistics of how that works. And because obviously people will be like, well, I'm upstairs, how am I going to get downstairs, etc. But we've thought of all that. Martin, do you want to explain how that's going to...
Absolutely. So there's going to be a rotation system.
Not a fireman's
pole. No, not a fireman's pole. Not
that's a good idea, though.
Call him Mr. Blake. Call him Mr. Blake. So we're going to rotate, which again logistically means we can effectively have double the amounts of signers as well. But the other thing I want to get across, it's not going to be like a convention. Conventions are really busy anyway, so I don't think you kind of get the chance to do this anyway. But I think some people have the expectation that you'll be able to have a half an hour chat with someone about the intricacies of how the film was made. You're going to be in a concert venue.
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be very much everyone's going to be friendly and talking, but you literally won't realistically be able to have that kind of conversation. Ironically, if they hang around for the VIP party, that's the best chance that you're going to have a catch up with people.
You can you can literally spend if they're all right with it, you can spend all night talking to them.
Them at that point.
Just do some shots with Greedo. Just lay out the shots on the bar.
I'm there for that.
Everybody is going to want to do shots with Greedo.
I want to do shots with Greedo, so...
But then equally, who wouldn't want a picture of Paul Blake at the Cantina with Blues Harvest playing behind them?
Yeah.
Look where I am tonight. So it's more of that, which is a new concept. It's not really been done before. So you can imagine we're having lots of conversations about how do we explain what's going to happen.
And this is the thing. This is why you need to go, because it's a difficult thing to explain to people. People will just think it's fake news because they'll just be like, this can't have happened.
Yeah.
This did not happen. Or, you did not see this. These pictures are photoshopped. But no, you need to go because you will have the ultimate case of FOMO if you don't go. And like to top it all off, Ash are playing.
Yeah, we'll be doing a set which is not typical normal Ash show. We've got obviously we've got songs which sort of tie in. We had the Lose Control song which kicked off our first album with the TIE Fighter. We've got a song called Dark Side Light Side which has got a whole outro section which is kind of uses part of the main John Williams motif. We've got the Clone song from Republic Commando, the Cantina Band music which we recorded as a B-side for Go From Mars, which was one of our bigger singles.
Ackman sung from the holiday special.
Funny you say that. We did discuss that.
Jed's writing a narrative for the entire night. So there's an immersive element as well. And we've got these massive screens. Like the Indigo is kitted out with like really top spec video screens.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of visuals as well as what's going on the stage.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds. Bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
So last week, Fantha Tracks were fortunate enough to sit down in a round table with executive producer, writer and showrunner Jon Favreau, with Jedi News, James Burns, and Future of the Force, Phil Roberts. So here's our chat with Jon Favreau talking all about Season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Given you're a student of the Expanded Universe, and you've used so many aspects in it for the Mandalorian and the Book of Boba, there are parallels of Mando's journey and Boba's journey in the original expanded universe. Now,
that's right.
Have you taken any inspiration from Mando's journey?
Yes.
From the new season?
Oh, from the new season, I was saying that there was an image. There was a comic book page of I think it was Django being rescued. That was definitely an inspiration for our flashbacks from The Mandalorian. Just so you know, of him being rescued and picked up and joining. You're now going to be a Mandalorian. I thought that was a very powerful image. And the question is, what's the EU? How is that inspiring?
Yeah, has Boba's journey paralleling with Mando's?
Boba's not. We're in pretty new territory now because we're dealing with lore that we've sort of inherited from choices that we've made. Of Mandalorians don't take off their helmets. Mm-hmm. In the Clone Wars, their helmets are off all the time. Are we retconning? Are we changing it? Are we yet again, are we doing something that's going to make it be either or? And our thing is we really want to try to bring all Star Wars fans together and have something for everybody, that everybody's welcome. And whether you're a kid who's never seen Star Wars before, or you're somebody who saw it when it came out when you're 10, like me, and people like you who've been sort of following a lot of it all the way through, we want to make sure that everybody feels equally at home there. And so a lot of what we might seem like inconsistencies, we embrace those and we say, let's really delve deep into it and see what stories we could tell. And so by having the one that doesn't take his helmet off meet Bo-Katan, it draws it right into center stage. And a lot of what you're seeing in season 3 is a direct result of the tensions that are created between the different factions. And we know from the Clone Wars and what the planet looks like that there's been infighting for centuries. So that's part of the Mandalorian culture, and so that's what led us into the storylines that you're about to see unfold.
Fantastic. When Mando started, it felt very contained and focused around these two central characters, and as the season's gone on, and now we're approaching the third, it feels like it's stepped out and given you a wider lens on not just their story but the wider galaxy. Was that always the plan?
I think we knew that there's an inevitability to complexity developing over time as you introduce new characters and as we started to pull other characters in, and as we started pulling toys out of the box, it's going to get bigger and bigger. But there's also a pruning back that I think is important, that sometimes the complexity, I know it's not just with this, it's with Marvel, it's with any franchise, it's going to grow and develop, and then assumptions are made that everybody has the same working knowledge about everything, and then you start to bifurcate your audience, and that becomes hard. And the types of stories you tell start to become bigger and bigger in scope. And sometimes it's the scale of the scope that is part of the tone of the piece. And I know that, like A New Hope, there were space battles, but there were relatively few ships. That's all they had the budget for and the technical means to do. But then you'd also have two droids walking in the desert. It felt very much like an old Western in that way. And so we really tried to start, as they're doing, the movies are getting bigger and bigger in the saga, it allowed us on Disney Plus, this new medium, to do something really small. But inevitably, as you point out, it's going to grow and culminate. And then, so you'll see, we're very aware of what you're talking about. We make conscious decisions about, even if we could do anything, we should make sure that we keep parameters.
So the show seems very much a collaborative project. You've always had different directors working on different chapters. Yep. So how do you ensure that there's consistency across the whole show?
By writing, right. By writing, and by having, Filoni is also a great mentor to me in that way, because he studied at the feet of George for so long, and in animation, it's so labor intensive, and there's so many artists involved that you have to create consistency. Right. I honestly learned a lot from studying with chefs for that movie, because chefs, they can't cook every meal.
Sure.
But they could develop the menu, and then they could also be there at the pass, as they say, nothing gets served that doesn't pass in front of them, and they may clean the plate, garnish it, send it back. So there's a certain sense of quality control and a sense of consistency that you get from that. But I think by having the stories not be one big serialized story, it allows us to have diverging tones in each one that reflects the artistic inspiration of the directors. So I think the combination of scripts that I write the lion's share of, and directors, some of our best directors never even directed before. The television environment allows for a collaboration that you wouldn't see as readily in film.
What does it mean to you to refresh so many legacy characters and expand on their legacies?
Legacy, like EU legacy characters?
Yeah, I
or
mean,
legacy
like Luke Skywalker, Boba Fett.
Oh, those legacy characters. Because I guess Legends characters.
Oh, the cool Legends, yeah.
I'm asking you guys. You're the experts. So the legacy characters you have to be very careful because they mean so much to so many people. And when they get one small taste of it, it's easy, because you show them in a way that you get them a snapshot of it, and then they get to go back in the toy box, And I think that everybody loved Darth Vader in Rogue One, right? It's like nobody had any problem with seeing Darth Vader in Rogue One. Or no, maybe some.
For me, it just felt that
This is so Star Wars. Okay.
What happens between the end of Rogue and the beginning of A New Hope? Is he just taking a Prozac or something? Because he's so mellow at the beginning of A New Hope, and he's so angry at the end of Rogue One. So to me, there's
So there's definitely there's it doesn't feel like it was completely like you can't cut them together in that way, and it will create. But I think for dramatic purposes, for what people want to see and what they know of that character, it was nice to, and also like he had a lot of moves that he wasn't using against Obi-Wan. So, but that aside, like just as far as like just the depiction of the character, I think you have to. People are invested in their expectations around characters, and Dave has always been very cognizant of that because he's dealt with these characters too, and he's woven in between those characters for like Clone Wars, even showing the flip side of what was happening in the prequels. So, you have to always be respectful and know that when you have a character you create on your own, you have much more freedom than when you're dealing with a character like Darth Vader or any of the legacy characters, Luke.
So you write season 1, it comes out, and it goes over gangbusters, and presumably you probably already started on season 2 before season 1 even come out.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know for sure that these characters are going to connect with people like us and the wider world. So in that sense, how reactive are you to the success of the characters you've written in continuing the story? Of course, they're central to it, but Baby Yoda as he was, Grogu as he is, might not have cottoned on the way he did. So are you sort of always keeping that in mind?
I think you have, we definitely have, we sit in a room like this and we have a board up on the wall, and Filoni has better penmanship than I do, and and he'll draw all the time, so it's good to have him with the pen in his hand, and we'll start to make notes about where things are going, what happened. And often I'll just start to spit out ideas and usually write scenes, send them off to Dave, and Dave will be like, oh, this is interesting, but it wouldn't be that kind of ship. You should look into this. And he has a really good working knowledge of everything, but we also have resources of other people. So it'll be like, oh, there was a ship from a game that never was in the show, but there's a lot of fan art around, and the fans liked it. I think this would be a good one to pull in. Let me call my brother, because he used to play that game. So it's that kind of thing. It's very informal. Or we'll talk to Pablo, or we'll talk to Doug Chang, or John Knoll, Hal Hickel. Like, everybody's here because we love Star Wars. So everybody's sort of an expert in a different era, different thing. I don't know the prequels as well as Dave. And then people who've worked on the sequels, and people who worked on the Clone Wars. And then I'll pull some stuff like the Ambin rifle from the Christmas special, or the Camtono, just things that I think are where we round out the details for the people who are the fans, but then also making it accessible for people who might not know it. They don't lose out because they don't know it, but it just adds a little bit more dimension to it. So, but by the time we finished season 1, by the time season 1 aired, we already knew that it had to be Luke. Right. And so we reached out to Mark, and because and if you remember, he did a cameo as a droid voice, right? So we brought him in and say, hey, we want you to do a droid voice. Could you take a... And he had done that in a lot of films, uncredited. And then we said, hey, here's what we're doing. And we showed him the reveal of Grogu, and we showed him what we're doing. and he was into it, like he was like interested and curious, and we said, and we're thinking of maybe like we're gonna end this season with him. The next season is gonna be the quest to find a Jedi. And even Dave was like, it kind of doesn't make sense for it to be anybody but Luke. Mm-hmm. If you look at where Luke was at that moment, it's like, okay, so what do we do? You know, like, how do you do this? And is it possible? But first and foremost, we knew it had to start with Mark. Mm-hmm. And when Mark was on board, then we started to talk to our friends at ILM and looked at the state of the art of de-aging, talked to Peyton Reed, who had done it for Ant-Man. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of different techniques, and deepfake was starting to come up, and machine learning. So we did certainly the state of the art that we could do at that moment. And then you see already how much it progressed to Book of Boba Fett. Now, if you look at the trailers for Indiana Jones, you could see, and now there's people doing it on their own online, where it's just hitting, which is also, by the way, something we felt strongly about, that like, let's do it and show people how we did it, because people should know that you could swap faces pretty convincingly and voices, and people should be aware that that's, as they look at things, they should have a healthy skepticism about what they're seeing with their eyes and hearing with their ears.
How's your relationship with Dave changed over the last 5 years? Because obviously you were sort of thrown together, and
kind of like Kathy was really smart in saying, like, you two might, she's a producer, like, she's a studio head, but she's a producer at heart. Like, that's her superpower, is she sees the big picture and understands how to put elements together and knows who would synergize. Mm-hmm. And she says, Dave's working on this thing with Mandalorians. It was much different than this. It was more about lore and more, and it was unclear what medium it would be in, but there was some discussion going on. And she says, do you know? And I said, of course I know Dave. Dave I met at the ranch when we were mixing Iron Man, the sound for Iron Man. He was starting Clone Wars. Showed me and my kid. My kid was little. My kid's now college. And so I did the voice of Pre Vizsla. So we all already had a good thing going. And I just loved going in there. And the Darksaber was something, that wasn't originally in the script. That was something George put in, because there was I think it was a vibro blade that was being used to parry a lightsaber, and George was like, no, you can't do that. And Dave had to redo everything, and I had to come in again. And my wife was like, he's right, that is cool. Like, George knew, like, he got the good instinct. It seemed like it was arbitrary, and now the Darksaber had become like such an interesting, iconic thing. This was the foundation of this whole, what's happening in this whole series. So it has, and then he had never done live action direction before. Right, yeah. So there was so there's sort of been like a two-way teaching process going on, where I'm learning about this long-form storytelling and what he learned from George about laying stuff out cinematically and using a lot of animation pre-production techniques. But then him doing live action, and that's why George was by the set, because when Dave was directing, George was there just yelling at him like a sports fan, saying, "You're not going fast enough. You should. How many setups did you get today?" But he really cares deeply about Dave. And now Dave, now it's evolved because of Ahsoka. So now Dave is like, there's all of these characters he's developed, bringing them to live action. And, he's the one who's really qualified to flip cards over about what's happening in the big picture. But all of our films, even Skeleton Crew, which is a much more intimate story than Ahsoka, they all have to work because they're in the same time period. So there's a lot of communication that goes on. And there's a lot of dividing and conquering as far as creatively, now that we have so many different shows going.
This is Susanna Malik from Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and this is Fantha Tracks. Is it Fantha Tracks? I'm blind. I couldn't read it. Fantha.
I'm still going to use that.
Are you? Then use it. Even like this dumb broad can't speak English.
We like to do things different, and I especially like to do things a little bit outside the books because it keeps me interested. So for the 2016 Cantina, we had the narrative that Ash were missing essentially all night, and we'd update people throughout the course of the night on the big screens with the music and the Star Wars crawl. And this time we're just like, okay, we need to go one better. We've got lots of technology that we can use here. We have all these contacts that we could use. Yeah, it's going to be another narrative, and because we're theming everything, we're going to make it more cantina orientated, where you are in this cantina, you are in this place where something's happening. The narrative part is going to be so immersive, and after a few cocktails, you'll really think you're on Tatooine. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
These cocktails must be amazing. I could just picture people snorting wasabi off Ula and stuff like this. It's just debauchery.
If anyone listens to the publicity that we've been doing, and thank you to you guys as well for being so generous at linking up with the right people, you will notice a trend with where Jed goes on all of these discussions, and it ends with cocktails every single time.
That's because I know they were just so
See,
popular.
look, he's still there.
I'm looking forward to it. And you know what? The sad thing is that we don't have a bricks and mortar cantina bar that we can just go to every single day, every night, and maybe that's something we should think about at some point.
I think Disney have got that.
I was going to say you got scum and villainy in Hollywood. I mean,
so this is the fun bit for me. So I have the pressure of the logistics and getting it all together. The fun bit I can put pressure on Jed is this narrative of the evening, because every time something new comes in, it's like, well, how are you going to wrap that into it then, Jed? And needless to say, annoyingly, he does.
That's kind of how we kind of like one of the things we kind of like collaborated on years ago. We made this horror movie which never got completed, called Slashed, and we kind of shot it on tour with people like Moby and Coldplay, Dave Grohl, James Nesbitt, a lot of people that we would bump into on tour. And I would be constantly just emailing Jed saying, oh, next week we're going to be playing with this person. Jed would just write it into the script, and it'd be like, we just wing it with like camcorder.
I love it when I flew out to LA to just hang out with Ash and Coldplay on tour. It was at the and I remember it was at the Greek Theatre in LA, and weirdly, like that night, Sean William Scott from American Pie, decided he was like my best mate, and he was just talking to me all night. It was great, and he was like, "Oh, I'm such a big fan of Ash. I can't believe I got into this gig." And I'm like, "You're Sean William Scott. You could probably get in anyway." but like, someone said, "Oh, it's probably you, Mark." Said, "Oh, Chris Martin wants to speak to you about his character in Slash." And I was like, "Okay." Yeah. Went over to his table. No joke. He was surrounded by models, and he was in the middle of them, and he was like, "Jed, sit down." And I was like, okay. it was like a kingpin. Sit down. And he leaned on the table. Okay, so I want my character to be called Sherlock Bones. And was like, okay. And he was like, I don't care what I do, but I need to say this line. I need to say lemon entry, my dear Watson. Lemon entry. And I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out. So like literally at this after party, I was like writing it, and then back in Ash's dressing room, I was writing it, and then pretty much by the next day, like all their stuff was done.
And then you sent me the script, and like within a week, we were in Chicago somewhere, and it was like before a show, Johnny and Chris from Coldplay were being chased down the hallway of this motel, getting like hacked to pieces with axes. It was very surreal.
And you can actually see that on Ash's YouTube channel. They've done a version of Binary, which has got slashed footage, and it's got the lemon entry comment.
The big question, you say Chris Martin was surrounded by models. Airfix or Ertl?
I knew you was going down that route.
Hi, this is Andy Seacombe, otherwise known as Watto, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
I've got a story about Gwyneth, actually.
I wanted to provoke you, Mark, and I thought, are we allowed to say it? And now you've said it. I'm just going to sit back and listen. This is my favourite story.
We were recording the album Meltdown, and we had hired a pretty big mansion on Rodeo Drive as a sort of like a headquarters while we were there. And everybody else was, I think some of them were in the studio. And it was one day whenever I think I must have finished all my parts, and I was back at the house by myself. For whatever reason, I mean, we were there. We never locked the door. The door was always just open. I was up, or the first floor of this mansion, and I had all my Star Wars toys laid out on the floor of this big immaculate white carpet. There was a mix of Star Wars and Transformers. I heard someone knock, hello, like that. And they came up the stairs and were like looking around, and I kind of opened the door, pulled the door open. I was like sat there on the floor. And I looked up and I was like, oh, it's Chris. Oh, it's Gwyneth. They're not here right now, but I was like very much still a grown man on the floor playing with my toys. And then they sort of like, okay, well, we'll find Tim later. See you. Bye. Oh,
Was that the first time you met Gwyneth, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She just hid behind your Ewok village and cried a bit.
Yes.
So she didn't say, what's in the box? Just loads of loose figures, Gwyneth. Loads of loose figures.
No.
There was another, that reminds me of another story very kind of similar. We were out in Australia doing the Big Day Out festival, and one of the other bands on the tour was the Fun Loving Criminals, Scooby Snacks. Anyway, Fast, who is the bass player in that band, he is a absolute massive Star Wars fan as well. I had been talking to him, and I had like told him, oh yeah, I actually bring some of my toys on tour with me just so I can set them up in the hotel rooms and stuff. He didn't believe me. And then he came round. we were all staying in the same hotel, and he came round with Saffron, the singer from Republica, and he's like, oh, okay. He was pretty impressed, but I don't know if he was. I don't know if he was impressed, but he was like, okay.
It's all
More
true.
importantly, was she impressed?
Oh yeah, she's super nice. She's always really nice.
Are you sure she's impressed, or was she ready to go?
Oh, dude.
I think the quality of story has gone up quite significantly as this has gone on.
I mean, the name drops definitely have, yeah.
So what's the ultimate goal? What's the ultimate hope when you get to that Monday and it's all done and you've swept the floor, the sticky floor, because it's always a sticky floor, and you're sort of basking at the bar and thinking, well, what are you thinking? What do you think you'll be thinking? What's the hope?
As long as everyone's had a great night, I mean, ultimately that's the plan. We're also aware that it's the big finale party of the weekend. There are other event parties going on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but then most people will be going home on the Monday. And the fact that the Monday's a bank holiday as well. Sunday is like the big blowout.
As long as people are saying they're glad they had a good time, that's literally all I care about.
For me,
Jed wants a statue erected.
I just, the relief, the relief after it's done is hard to describe. Just, you don't realize what you're doing until after you've done it. So in the midst, your brain and your body fills it full of chemicals to get you through it. But then afterwards, we're just going to crash. So like on the Monday at Celebration, I'll probably get there in the afternoon and just be like in a daze. But my ultimate hope is it was good enough, and it will be. It was good enough so we can do it again, and people will want to come again. And whether it's in the UK or whether we go and do it like we really wanted to in America,
that's a story in itself. We wanted to do it in Anaheim, but things didn't play out.
So have you guys just announced that it was going to be a Cantina free then?
No.
Wow, I literally watched Martin's hair turn white in real time.
I know. You just panicked.
My dream is to get Dave Filoni at this show, just to come along. Who knows if it happens or not, but that would be cool.
Well, Filoni, when he does his talk to Celebration, quite often he'll have a couch on stage and he'll have a family and a few kids on stage. That time years ago when he had the kid, he told the kid he was the voice of Chopper and cool things like that. Just put a nice sofa on the stage for a few people and, you never know, maybe he'll park up.
If I'm lucky enough to be working backstage again, do you think it's suitable for me on sort of Sunday afternoon and go, right, your next panel, Mr. Filoni, if you'd just like to follow me.
Into the back
walking out the venue.
Into the cable exit. Onto the cable car.
This bag over your head is completely normal.
Yeah, that's so people don't recognise you, Mr. Filoni. Yes. Even though I put the cowboy hat on top of the bag. So serious question, would there be a third one? I'm not even thinking of that yet. Let's see how this one goes. But I was persuaded to do this one, and I'm really pleased I was persuaded. So just see how it goes.
Yeah. One other quick question, and I should have asked it earlier because sequentially it would have made far more sense. But merch, will there be any Cantina merch?
Yes. Last time our t-shirts sold out in record time.
Yes.
And they were just really popular. And because this is going to be a gig, and I wouldn't even say gig, it's a moment. It's a moment.
It's a happening.
Yeah, exactly. Where people will want to say they've been there. And the only way you're going to get to prove it is from photos. Again, people might think they're photoshopped. So you need to have evidence. And the best evidence is to buy a Cantina t-shirt. We made 2 Cantina t-shirts last time, one for pre-orders, which we aren't doing this time, and then one for the actual gig. And we didn't make enough of them. So I barely, I had to pull it out of Martin's cold dead hands to get myself a t-shirt. And and I love that t-shirt. And every time I see it out in the wild, it's just like, wow. And people hold on to that t-shirt you've never seen that on eBay. You'll never see a Cantina t-shirt on eBay because no one wants to get rid of it because it represents a memory. And that's what we want to do. We want to make this a positive memory that you'll never forget. And if this is the last Cantina, if we never do another one, buy a t-shirt. It's limited edition. It'll instantly become an iconic piece of merch.
So £36 plus fees. You can get your standard general standing ticket or your balcony seating ticket, which gets you into the venue. It gets you into see Ash, Blues Harvest. DJ Elliott's doing a full set at Cantina,
which doesn't happen a lot, does it?
Really doesn't happen a lot. And Level Up Leroy's doing a full set as well. If you go to www.thisiscantina.com is the website, and it's got a link to tickets there, or you can go direct to Indigo at the O2, find Cantina and buy them there. or you can just go to AXS and look for Cantina and buy them there. So frankly, you should be able to find it quite easily. And then there is also a rapidly selling out VIP option that could actually be gone by the time this goes out. That's where you get the VIP. That's £99 plus fees. And you get to meet Mark Newbold at the end, which is surely the big incentive. We haven't announced him formally yet, but hopefully people have put the hosted by Fantha Tracks together.
Martin, didn't we came up with a name for like it's the first Star Wars Music Con Festival.
That's a good idea.
Because it has got that whole, when you go to a festival, you've got the bands playing, but then there's all like the tents and stuff outside. Obviously, this is indoor. I was trying to think of how would you describe it.
Woodstock 1999 was a con festival as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, I was going to say.
This is a much more positive version of that.
Hashtag Fire Festival, yeah.
No. I'll never sleep again. That's it. 6 weeks of non-sleep for me just through Jed saying that.
But hold on, we've already hosted one successful event.
That's true. We're one up on them.
Well, if we don't speak before, which we will, we'll see you. We'll see you at the Indigo at the O2 on the 9th of April. Can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
This is Cantina.com.
Thanks for listening to Making Tracks. If you want to be a part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit FanthaTracks.com or check out the free Fantha Tracks app through the App Store to follow us on your mobile device. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@FanthaTracks.com. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Temple for composing the Fantha Tracks intro, Adam O'Brien for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember, tune in to Good Morning Tatooine. It's live Sunday evenings at 9 o'clock UK, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on Facebook and YouTube. And check out our Fantha Tracks Radio Friday night rotation every Friday night at 7 p.m. UK time for new episodes of The Fantha from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collecting Tracks, Cannon Fodder, and special episodes of Making Tracks. And that's me done for this episode.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Desert Planet Discs.
Lemon entry, my dear Watson.